Hello and welcome to our podcast series, Conversations with KidsPeace. I'm Bob Martin. April is Autism Awareness Month, and as we have for the past couple of years, we've been very fortunate to have our good friend Rob Harvey join us. Rob is the Director of Intensive Behavioral Health Services, IBHS, here at KidsPeace, and we're going to talk about what's happening in that area. Rob, always a pleasure.
Great to be here, Bob.
All right. Let's get the jargon out of the way.
Sure.
Intensive Behavioral Health Services, IBHS. How does that relate to the programming that we have for kids and families who are dealing with autism?
Okay, so IBHS, its kind of hallmark is that we go to the kids in the place that they need service. So instead of bringing them to a program, we go to their homes, to their schools, to their daycares, and we provide those services right there. And that also allows us to provide services to the caregivers to, work with the parents, with the daycare staff, with the school teachers, to really build everybody's skills so that the child has the most kind of ability to succeed, which kind of differs from our after-school program, which also falls under the IBHS umbrella, but that's IBHS group services. So they're coming in a group, and they do come to our location there so that they can receive services in that group setting.
That's an indication of something that I think is always fascinating about your field, because it seems like the understanding we have about the challenges that kids face in this space and the advancements in the field are always changing. Mm-hmm. So what's new in 2025 in your world?
So there's kind of fortunately a real positive shift towards what's considered trauma-informed or compassionate ABA. So applied behavior analysis is the gold standard treatment for the autism spectrum and behaviors kind of in general. But especially on social media, it gets some bad rap, particularly for things that have kind of been a part of it in the past. So there's been a big shift now to really consider the desires of the child, to accept when they do not want to be involved in something. So it's much less about trying to get them to be compliant with what we want them to do, and much more about connecting them with joyful experiences. As far as diagnosis and things like that, it continues to get more and more refined. And there's a lot of really cool stuff kind of in the works with eye gaze studies. So they're seeing that when they have an autistic child view a video, and they have all kinds of things that can monitor where they're looking, they can really solidly see, just with a few minutes of that footage, they can detect kind of some of those autistic traits. Because really what it boils down to, and it's kind of cool, what it boils down to is when you or I, or a quote unquote neurotypical individual, watches a screen with people on it, we're looking at the eyes and the mouth almost, I can't remember the percent, but the vast majority of the time, as opposed to autistic viewers who are looking at everything else most of the time. So they're noticing the things in the background. So they've noticed from some of these eye gaze studies that they can really detect autism faster, cheaper, and which is a great thing. They just I haven't seen it rolled out in general. We're still looking at diagnostic testing and things like that, but I think that'll be coming out pretty soon.
Okay. That leads me to a question I think that's on a lot of people's minds, because there's a lot of debate going on regarding the prevalence of autism in the society. And I know that some folks are comparing the rate of the diagnosis of autism now with what it was 10, 15 years ago. And they're making, and again, I'm a layman, I should say this, but they're making kind of a jump of logic of there must be something, quote unquote, causing autism now. Right. You're not a layman. You're an expert in the field. You're our expert in the field. What's your thought about that?
So I as well will not try to exert myself as someone who knows exactly, because I honestly don't think anyone knows, which is kind of, a fascinating and slightly scary thing. But my strong educated suspicion is that it's mostly a refinement in diagnosis. I feel like we might have touched on this before in another conversation, but I'll highlight it again because I just think it's one of the most fascinating things. So we know that autistic girls are diagnosed much later or not at all. So we also know that boys are 4 times more likely to be diagnosed with autism. So that initially kind of made the world feel like this is something that occurs more in boys. And that's still kind of a prevalent kind of idea. But the research recently into what they're kind of starting to call profound autism, which is individuals that will always need high levels of support, most likely will never have reliable verbal ability. And this is not, most of the autistic population, but it is a good, I believe it's 20%. Don't quote me on that, but here's the interesting thing is that in that profound autism kind of population, it's a 50-50 split between boys and girls, which to me seems really to indicate that it's not really more prevalent in boys. It's just more easy to detect in boys because girls are much better at hiding it. And their autism presents in a quieter, kind of more subtle way, as opposed to boys who kind of have a louder kind of presentation.
And if the past literature, the past research had been based on boys, on the male response, you look and say, well, those responses aren't happening with this child.
Yep.
You need to have, and goodness, we have had so many examples throughout all of healthcare of the mistake that has been made or the refinement that needs to be made, that you need to be able to look at things in, again, physical healthcare, mental healthcare, that there are real differences between men and women, boys and girls, in terms of this diagnosis.
Yeah, it's amazing.
That's pretty impressive. Let's talk about a program. It's dear and dear to my heart. I love it. Tell us what's happening with Sarah Smile.
So Sarah Smile is our summer program, still falls under that IBHS umbrella. And this program also, this is really where I kind of got my roots with working with groups of learners. So they continue to do amazing things. They're a year-round program at this point. So our after-school program transitions into the Sarah Smile summer program. So our learners they just continue on. They may change their days, and Sarah Smile takes place during the day as opposed to after school in the school year. So they get to kind of have that therapeutic experience during the day. And they just, they have a blast, that's always our main focus is to, it's not a camp, it's a therapeutic program. But a lot of elements of it feel like they're at a camp, like the peers in their school might be. So it continues to be one of the things I'm the most proud of is that amazing group service where they can take those skills they learned in a one-on-one setting and really develop them and create friendships and skills in that setting. And
I know you and I have talked before, the advancement of the kids that are in this program, in many cases are nothing short of like amazing. Mm-hmm. Like especially like to their families who say we have no idea, that we could have this kind of advancement with the kids and the behavior of our kids.
Yeah.
Speaking of advancement, and you alluded to this a little while ago, because last year we did one of our KidsPeace stories pieces on a client of IBHS named Piper, and you brought a perspective that I thought was really just fascinating and important about the phenomenon of the provider and the therapist learning from the client. Can you go a little bit into that? We do in the piece, and everybody can see it on KidsPeace stories at our stories tab on kidspeace.org. But can you talk a little bit more about that? What does that mean to you as a therapist about what they're teaching you as opposed to the other way around?
Absolutely. Yeah. So proud of Piper and her team. Just an amazing story. But, I think kind of the biggest thing, my takeaway from that learning experience and kind of all the kids that we work with, is that when I started in the field, it was what's best for you. Let's figure out what's best for this kid, and let's kind of force feed is not the right word, but let's make the decisions kind of our end because we know better. And that, that really has revealed itself as a mistake. These kids know what they like. They know what makes them tick. They know what they want to do with their lives generally, right? So learning from those interactions, learning what makes them succeed and what drives them has been so huge. And watching the way that they interact with the world, which is not, usually the way that I do, has just been such a valuable experience, because to teach a person the way that they want to be taught so that it's valuable for them is far more meaningful than to just teach them what I think that they should be taught.
It just seems like it would turbocharge their advancement because they're understanding what they're doing. And like you said, it's something they want, and therefore maybe more effort, maybe more attention can be paid to that.
Yeah.
That's really great. You make this job sound so much fun, and I know it is for you and everything. And we should point out there's opportunities if people are interested in this field to get involved, right?
Yes, always. Yeah, I would love for people to ignite that same passion that I had. Coming out of college, I didn't know what I was going to do. I started as a theater major. I switched to an education major. I didn't student teach, so I didn't have a lot of options. And I kind of fell into this through one of my friend's moms kind of set me up with this job. And, 22 years later, it is my true passion. And I had no idea that it was even a thing. So yeah, we are always looking for behavioral health technicians. And the nice thing about that position is that the only requirement for it is a high school diploma or a GED, and even more important, kind of a desire to help these wonderful people and a desire to learn. We can teach you what you need to know. If you come in with that excitement, that passion for helping people, we can teach you the rest. So that's always a position we're looking for. And, we have programs all throughout Northeast Pennsylvania, Honesdale, Bloomsburg, Reading, Bethlehem. So there's a lot of opportunities that are kind of always there. So we'd love to hear from people who might be interested in doing this really cool career.
We always say that working at KidsPeace and certainly working in IBHS is the same, is absolutely in this realm. There are very few jobs where you can actually say at the end of the day, you know what, I made a difference in a person's life today. I've had a lot of jobs that is not common. I try to make people understand that. But that's wonderful. And the careers page at kidspeace.org has information on that. So please check it out and everything. Personal note, I know you're an excellent musician. In fact, I don't know if there's anything you can't do, Rob, but it kind of ticks me off sometimes. But anyway, what are you listening to these days?
Oh, I mulled over this question. So my favorite new band is a band called Vienna. And it really is it seems to be just one guy. And he plays like this really energetic, pop rock kind of alternative. But it's exactly what I needed at this time. So Vienna, definitely check them out.
All right. Vienna. You've been through the drill before. We ask everybody for a life hack and our conversation. What's your life hack for us today?
So my life hack today is something that I call leaning in. So I've, in this day, we talk a lot about burnout. I have a lot of staff and friends who kind of talk about how they're burned out. And they say, Rob, like you've been doing this for, all this time. Like, how are you not tired of it? How are you not burned out? And my answer is that I lean in. So our natural inclination when we are tired, getting frustrated with something is to escape it. So at the end of a hard day, we want nothing to do with what we did that day. On a weekend, we don't want to think about work. But we're in this field here at KidsPeace of changing lives, like you said before, of helping people, of changing the world, for the better, leaving it a better place than when we arrived. So that's when I say lean in. I'm saying, instead of trying to escape it all the time, go ahead and think about it, go ahead and read books and articles, as lame as that might sound to do on like a weekend or an evening. There's nothing that reignites my passion, my reason for being here than consuming more information about doing it better. And the byproduct is that, I get to learn more about helping these wonderful children and adults even more effectively. So lean in. That's my life hack.
Lean in. I like that. Rob Harvey is Director of Intensive Behavioral Health Services here at KidsPeace. Rob, you have that seat anytime you want it.
Pleasure to be here, Bob. As always.
Right. Thank you. And thank you all for joining us as well. We look forward to having you join us again for more conversations with KidsPeace. Till then, take care.